Well, kids, I'm glad you could stop and see me today. I'd like to tell you a story, a real story that happened quite a few years ago. I was driving tractor trailer. I had a load that was going to be delivered in Seymour, Indiana. Now, what's so special about Seymour, Indiana? Well, it's about almost 600 miles from Rochester, New York. But Seymour, Indiana is the town where your grandma was born. So this is really Grandma's story, but I'll tell it. I was going to deliver on a Monday morning to a Walmart distribution center in Seymour, Indiana. We got there Friday night. Saturday morning, Grandma decided she would like to go into town and see the hospital where she was born. So I got permission to leave the trailer and we took the big truck. This is just an idea how big it is. You see that? Grandma's eyes are level with the floor of the truck. So you have to climb way up, so it's a big truck. Also, when Grandma got out, she was so happy to get out. I don't know if it's because she was going to be in the town where she was born or just happy to get out of the truck, but she almost danced a jig. You see that water tower? If it were a nice picture, you could see that it said Seymour on the water tower. So we drove into town and found the hospital. Then she thought she would like to see the house where she lived after she was born in the hospital until she was about 2 years old. Well, I didn't want to take the big truck into the little country roads in Vernon, Indiana. So I decided we would rent a car. So we got in the car, followed the map out to Vernon. Now, Grandma wasn't sure exactly where she lived, but she thought if she saw the house, she would recognize it. But we drove around a little bit and couldn't find it. Now, I've rented a lot of rental cars. Most of them are really new. Never had a problem with the engine or it trying to not keep going. But as we came up to this intersection, out in the country, the car started to cough and sputter. I said, uh-oh, I don't know if there's water in the gas or it's just low on gas, even though Gage said I had gasoline. But right there was a church, and out in front of the church was a little parking lot, and there was a car in the parking lot. So the car, I had it cough and sputtered. We got into the parking lot and knocked on the church door, and a lady answered. Now, this was Saturday morning, which is kind of unusual for anybody to be working in the office in the church. But we told her what our problem was and asked if there was a gas station nearby. And she said, sorry, closest one is back in I think she said North Vernon, which was quite a ways away. And then she wondered, I guess we told her why we were there. We were looking for a house where your grandma had lived when she was a baby. And the way your grandma described it was, well, there was a house on one side of the road. On the other side of the road, there was a barn and a pond. And they had planted a tree in the front yard. And above the front door, there was an oval window. Now, this is a picture of that house with your grandma and your great-great-grandma in the front yard, way back when your grandma was a little baby. So she didn't have any idea where the house was, but she said, you know what? There's a man here working on the furnace, and I'll ask him. He might know because he is actually the town historian. So Grandma told him the story where it was, and he says, I think I know where that house is. Now, he wasn't very old. He wasn't as old as your grandma, but he knew where the house was. He says, and I know the people that live there. As soon as I'm done here, I'll call them, and then I'll You can follow me over there. Well, that's great. At least we won't get lost. But I told him, I says, we're having trouble with the car. And he says, well, if you have trouble, I'll help you. Well, that helped me a lot. So we got over there, and sure enough, that was the house. Now you see this picture? How big the tree is? It had been a long time since your grandma had been back there. And the little oval window over the door, well, when they put siding on the house, they just covered right over the window. But he knew, this man knew the people that lived in the house and asked if we could go in. So we went in and we went upstairs, and on the inside of the house, you could still see the oval window. So, and we never had any more trouble with the car. It ran great. So this is what I want you to understand. You know, God loves you, and He wants you to live with Him forever in heaven. And He cares about you here on earth, not just that you have enough to eat and you have a place to sleep and clothes to wear, but He cares about what's in your heart that will make you happy. Little things. You see, it was no coincidence that that car had started having trouble right by that church. And it was no coincidence that somebody was working there in that church. And it was no coincidence that there was a man working downstairs who happened to be maybe the only person who would have recognized that house. God loves you, and He cares about little things in your life. I hope you understand this, and I love you too, and I'm sorry I'm not here with you. I wish you were right here with me. But today happens to be Christmas Day, so I'm going to wish you a Merry Christmas. God bless and take care of all of you.